So what you really get in Jacksonville is an opportunity to invest in assets that pay for themselves every single month, create that cash flow, and you also have significant upside. And of course, that's why we have all of our investments here in Jacksonville. And of course, that's why we advise our clients to invest here as well.
This episode brought to you by Suites at Madison. Meeting and conference rooms for rent by the hour, week, month, or year. Suites at Madison, where business gets done. Check them out at www.downtowntampaoffice.com. Now, on to the show.
You are listening to the Invest Florida Real Estate Show, covering topics in lending, buy and sell strategies, property management, hot markets, and tips and tools to guide you along the way on your path to real estate success. You want Florida investment real estate talk? You have come to the right place. And now, our hosts, Eric Odom and Steven Silverman.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Invest Florida Real Estate Show. This is your co-host, Eric Odom, flying solo today. Steven's out. He's in the process of selling, it's a self-storage unit that his family has had for a number of years that he's closing the transaction on today. So he couldn't be with us, but that's okay. We've had a great guest today. We're going to be talking the Jacksonville market, talking about single-family home investing. We have a great guest who's been there for a number of years doing single-family investing, turnkey properties in the market, and going to talk a little bit about how the Jax market's holding up and what the single-family market in Jacksonville, as well as the overall economy in Jacksonville, is looking for the next few years and beyond. Wanted to take just a few minutes to talk about reviews. We, in the past, have asked you guys for reviews. If you haven't had a chance to do so, we really would appreciate it. It's a lot of time and energy and effort into bringing guests onto our show. And it helps if you guys, leave reviews. It shows that people are actually listening, and it really, really helps us. It eases our efforts in trying to get guests to come on. So wanted to just thank Cheeky Stevie. He left a review for us, says newbies enjoyed this podcast too. Great podcast. I'm trying to learn about the world of real estate investing, and this show does a great job of making a pretty complex world accessible even for a novice like me. Cheeky Stevie, really appreciate that. Like I said, it does help us a great deal. And if you've not done so already, if you could go to iTunes podcast and leave us a review there, or transversely, you could go to the reviews of our app on the Google Store, and that helps too, or Stitcher. We'll definitely read it and get it out there. It helps with our programming efforts. Let's talk a little bit about Jax. It's been a while since we've been in Jax and talked about Jacksonville. Of course, it seems that at times it's a forgotten market. People think about South Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, Orlando, and Tampa. A lot of our guests tend to be up and down the I-4 corridor. And Jax, to a lesser degree, we've had a handful of guests from Jacksonville in the past. And so it's really exciting when we get somebody from the Jacksonville market, because it's not common for us to hear about what's going on there. But today we have with us Gregg Cohen. Gregg never intended to be an entrepreneur, but when the corporate world left him disillusioned, depressed, and demoralized, he decided to take a leap of faith. So Gregg created JWB Real Estate Capital, a vertically integrated real estate investment company dedicated to making rental property investing easy for clients. Gregg just doesn't want to own a successful business. He wants to change people's lives. With 4,500 rental properties under management, more than $40 million in positive cash flow returns since 2011, and 1,200 plus clients served across 43 states and 13 countries, it's safe to say real estate investment is the vehicle that helps him do both. Gregg, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks for having me.
Now, really excited to invest some time with you today, Gregg. Talk a little bit about the Jax market. But first, why don't you tell us how you got started in the business and where you're originally from?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the way I got started in the business, this certainly was not by design to be in real estate and to build a business designed around real estate. I grew up not in an entrepreneurial family, and I went to the University of Florida, and entrepreneurship and real estate investing was the farthest thing from my mind. What I was thinking about at that time was what most people are, study hard and get a good job. And after school, I was lucky enough to get a good job, and I went to go and work in corporate America. And, unfortunately did not have a great experience there, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it. It was an experience where, I thought I was getting into something that was going to help me grow and be team centric and of course grow with that company over time. And it was just not that way. And so I was actually in a pretty tough spot, which a friend of mine who was also working at that same company was also in a tough spot. And he said, "Hey, you should read this book. I think it'll help." And the book was Rich Dad, Poor Dad,
of course,
which I hope all of your listeners read that book. It's very powerful. And, I read that book one night, and I remember looking at myself in the mirror after putting the book down. And I said, "I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to start my own real estate investment company." And if you knew anything about me, if you've known me growing up, I'm very conservative, and that was not likely. But that book was that powerful. And I was also in such a painful experience at that time. And I was young. I was 23 years old. So it seemed like a good idea. And if I fell flat on my face, I'd say, well, corporate America is always there for me if I needed to go back.
Yeah, well, there you go. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your company, JWB Real Estate Capital, and what you guys do and what differentiates you?
Absolutely. So we're here in Jacksonville, Florida. And, our story started back in 2006. That's where I actually, quit my job and started this company. So that was 16 years ago. And for any of us Florida investors out there, or investors across the country in 2006, it was a unique time to join the market. And for us as young entrepreneurs, we started investing in real estate in any way, shape, and form we could to survive. So that meant trying all types of real estate. It meant flipping high-end homes or flipping low-end homes or wholesaling properties or lease options or seller financing, you name it, and we did it. And we thought we were good at that time because everybody in 2006 was good at real estate, or at least we thought. One of the things I'm really, of course, lucky and glad that we did was at that time, we learned the value of investing in cash flowing rental properties. And so my business partners and I built up a portfolio of about 40 rental homes over the first year and a half. Well, as the market started to change in 2007 and 2008, and of course it led to the Great Recession and the crash, we were in a tough spot as a company because all of these things that we were doing out there were not making money, and we were losing money, except one part of our business, which was this portfolio of rental homes that we had built and managed and were maintaining. It was like an epiphany because we looked at everything else that was failing, and we looked at the one thing, the rental properties that we were actually spending almost no time managing, was the one thing that was doing quite well. And that's because even though the values of those properties dropped like everything else, the rental income did not. It was consistent. And for us, our plan was always to buy and hold for a very long time. And so from that experience, while nothing else was working and we were taking losses everywhere else, we said, you know what, I think we have something here with this rental property experience. A lot of people had kind of started to follow our journey, being young guys at that time and building up a portfolio of about 40 rental properties. They said, well, how are you doing it? And we said, you know what, maybe we can create the same experience for others. And so what that led us to do, it's been a 16-year journey now, has been trying to perfect that experience and make investing in rental properties easy for everyday people and to be able to take advantage of a market like Jacksonville, Florida, no matter where you live. And so that's what JWB Real Estate Capital does. And specifically what we do is we actually buy land for the purpose of turning that into a brand new construction home. And we do this years and years in advance of when our clients need that inventory. So we stockpile land. We then build out that inventory into a brand new construction home. We then put a resident in that home and sign a long-term lease with that resident. And then we sell that property to a client. And these are everyday people. These are not big institutional investors. We like working with what we would call mom and pop investors. And then, of course, we do the long-term property management for those individuals. And it's all under one roof here in Jacksonville. We have a staff of over 80 people here. And we get to do this and help our clients build their portfolios while they have one number to call for the life of their investment with us. And complete goal alignment, which I think is the biggest thing that's missing for most people when they get into rental property investing.
Tell me a little bit about, I know it's going to vary, but tell me a little bit about what the range of numbers looks like for someone to come in this sort of turnkey investment solution, Gregg.
Yeah, absolutely. So our average purchase prices are between $180,000 to $280,000, and the median home price in Jacksonville is about $310,000 right now.
Okay.
And so we're looking in those below middle income neighborhoods, not low income, but we don't want to be middle income or above, because the number one rule for us is to invest in assets. And what I mean by that is investing in cash flowing properties that pay for themselves every single month. And that's what we can find in our below middle income neighborhoods. So we focus there. Your return on investments are estimated between 7 to 9%. And that takes into account your cash flows, your tax savings, your principal pay down. It does not take into account home price appreciation, though. And of course, Jacksonville is known as a growth market, which means that we appreciate more than the national average. And we think of that as just, icing on the cake for our investors long term. So you're looking at 7 to 9% with upside.
I mean, shocking that, you consider appreciation as not a birthright. So many folks, you see these pro formas come through. We look at plenty of them that you're like, man, look at this return. And then you see that they've got a 3 or 4% VIG built in as appreciation in their returns. And of course, that looks just stupid good. But I mean, it's absurd. Of course, it makes me just take the pro forma and throw it in the circular, because we just don't know what the market's going to do. We've been in a very, very fortunate situation for the past, 13 years, 12 years. But we know from, you and I both know from 2008, it's certainly not guaranteed.
Exactly. That's right. And nor should you think that it's guaranteed, especially in the short run when you own rental properties. Right? It's speculative if you're planning on appreciation over the next 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, right? Appreciation is rather consistent when you take out full market cycle chunks, but most people, don't have that wide of a lens. And you bring up a better point here, which is, the lack of return on investment is usually not the thing that prevents people from getting into rental properties, right? Most people would look at that and say that there's an opportunity to earn a nice return on investment if I get into real estate. The thing that prevents most people from getting into real estate is the horrible experience that they're feeling. And so if you can surround yourself with a team of professionals who can make this a positive experience, then what this can do is unlock this asset class for everyday investors. And they don't only have to have their money in the stock market, stocks, bonds, mutual funds. They can have an additional leg of their portfolio, which is something that we need as a country.
Tell me, I'm assuming these aren't all cash deals with your clients, or are they?
Generally, no. We talk a lot about using smart debt to build up your portfolio the right way. And so about 60 to 70% of our purchases use conventional financing.
Gotcha. And so do you have preferred lenders that you're going to? And if so, what are the debt packages looking like right now?
Yeah, absolutely. We have our preferred lenders, and that we facilitate that for our clients to make this a great experience overall. Lending is one of the tougher parts of the experience, though, right? So that's why we vet our lenders ahead of time, make sure that not only can they perform on the loan, but they're up to that customer service standard that we hold so dear. As far as your typical debt packages, I like to call these just your typical vanilla loans. This isn't your no money down. This isn't your, crazy creative loans, right? These are Fannie or Freddie loans where you can put down either 20 or 25%. And, you're able to take advantage of incredibly low interest rates and incredibly great terms. And I spent a lot of time talking with our clients on just what an amazing opportunity this is right now, because of the state of the economy and because of the Fed's actions, that we have the ability to borrow money at, call it 4% rates, and you can lock that in for the next 30 years. I always tell people to ask themselves, do you think you can find an investment out there that can earn more than 4%? And most people can. Well, think about the ability for you to lock in a cost of 4% debt for 30 years and think about how that's going to help you create generational wealth.
Gregg, talk to us about the Jax market. I mean, we haven't had someone on the show from Jax in a while, so we're really interested in the neighborhoods that you're interested in, and also a 30,000-foot view of where you see the economy in Jax today and where it's headed?
Absolutely. Well, let's start with helping folks decide what would be a good market to invest in if you're looking at acquiring a portfolio of rental properties. Right? If you're looking at it big picture, in order to achieve positive cash flow, you need to get low prices. You need to have high rent. That's what allows you to create this cash flow opportunity. So, of course, we've done our research on Jacksonville, comparing it to the U.S. I'll give you some of those stats. Jacksonville's home prices are 24% below the national median. So you got those low prices. And our rents are above the national median as well. So there's that cash flow opportunity. But that's where most investors stop when they're analyzing a market. And what I urge everybody to do, if you are planning on buying and holding for a full market cycle, you need to do a little bit more due diligence. Because the way home price appreciation works is over a full market cycle, you tend to have similar appreciation rates as you did over the last market cycle. And a full market cycle is known to be between 10 to 20 years. So if you're an investor and you're planning on buying and holding in a market, you can actually look at what your market has done over the last 20 years or 30 years or 40 years, and you'll have a really good idea of how it's going to perform over the next 10 to 20 years. And so when you do that due diligence, Jacksonville stacks up so well, right? Our home price appreciation is actually higher than the national median or the national average, which is unique because you usually can't get above average appreciation in a market that also has low prices and high rents. You usually have to give up on that growth. Mm-hmm. And if you compare Jacksonville to comparable cash flow markets, those ones with low prices and high rents, since 1982, Jacksonville has had 24% more home price appreciation. So what you really get in Jacksonville is an opportunity to invest in assets that pay for themselves every single month, create that cash flow, and you also have significant upside. And of course, that's why we have all of our investments here in Jacksonville. And of course, that's why we advise our clients to invest here as well.
Talk to me about some of the neighborhoods that you really like in Jax.
So we've been buying in the same neighborhood for all 16 years. And we own over 300 rental properties as a company. So we invest right alongside with our clients. And the neighborhoods that we have chosen have, we talked big picture about why Jacksonville has low prices and high rents. Well, when you choose a market like Jacksonville, you also need to find those neighborhoods that also have low prices and high rents within the context of that market. And so that's why we choose our neighborhoods. There's 4 key neighborhoods that we have always invested in Jacksonville. We continue to invest in those today. For anybody who's familiar with Jacksonville, we invest on the west side, the north side, Arlington, and the south side. And as I mentioned, these are neighborhoods that have low home prices, high rents. They're surrounded by jobs, which is obviously very critical for having long-term resident stays and strong incomes to be able to support the rent.
Are you you're originally from Jax, right?
Not originally. I grew up in Orlando, lived in Pittsburgh for a while, and then came back to finish up at the University of Florida, and then made my way to Jacksonville for that first job that I got.
Gotcha. And in terms of the real estate market or even the economy in Jax, like where do you see it heading, Gregg?
We're kind of a sleeping giant is the way that I've always felt about Jacksonville. People are starting to learn more and more about Jacksonville, which is why we actually have the 5th fastest growing population in the entire country. That was from 2017 to 2019, which is the latest data from the U.S. Census. So people are finding out about Jacksonville, and our economy is strong. But I'll tell you, there's a huge opportunity for growth surrounding downtown Jacksonville. So Eric, you're in Tampa, right?
Correct. And
tell me a little bit about the growth of downtown in Tampa over the last, call it 10 years. Hasn't it been quite substantial?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about in Tampa, we have Bill Gates and Jeff Vinnick who are building the south end of the downtown core. I mean, there's $1 billion of investment going into downtown just from those two cats.
Absolutely. What was it like? I'm not so familiar with what it was like 10 years, 15 years, 20 years ago. But before all those big investments came to downtown, what was it like?
Oh, you turn the lights out at 6 o'clock. Now it's a live, play, work environment.
Yeah. And that's the big opportunity that we have in Jacksonville. We are in this transitional stage where if you come to downtown Jacksonville right now, you're going to look at it and you're going to say, there's a lot of vacant buildings and nobody stays around after work ends, right? We have 55,000 people that work in downtown Jacksonville, but people leave after work, and there aren't a lot of bars and restaurants, and there's not a lot of multifamily or, residential down there. But at the same time, there is so much development that's actually going on, so much funding that has already been appropriated, so many city incentive dollars that have actually been created and put to work already. I'll give you some stats. So, from looking at other successful downtowns, our city leadership and, JWB, we're a part of this as well. We've been able to see the model for other downtowns working, like Tampa, like Nashville, right? And what we've been able to see is that this number of residents, 10,000 residents, is really, really important. So it's something that as a city we've been tracking, and we have a big initiative to get to 10,000 residents living downtown. So, for as long as I can remember, we were hovering around 3,500 residents living downtown, which is just crazy, right? Jacksonville's downtown is big. We have 55,000 people working there, and only 3,500 thought it was a good move for themselves and their families to live down there. And it stayed that way. Well, those numbers started to increase. All right, we started to have more incentive dollars that were put into projects. We have small developers, of which JWB is a part of, is a small developer downtown. We have large developers now, like Shad Khan, who is the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he's bringing a Four Seasons to Jacksonville. And so now our number of people living downtown has been growing. They're still very small numbers, but this is indicative of where downtown Jacksonville is going. So now we're up to about 6,500 people living downtown. And, as you can imagine, as we continue to get more and more people living downtown, the big opportunity for all of Jacksonville and for real estate investors is if you look at what happens to those neighborhoods that surround downtown in Nashville, I'm sure in Tampa, right, in Miami and other downtowns that have gone through this transition, those investors who invest in neighborhoods surrounding downtown see significant growth, even more than what normal home price appreciation would be. And so what we see is a huge opportunity to invest in the growth of downtown, not just for ourselves, but for our clients, to be able to be a part of this revitalization and this transformation. And we are absolutely convinced that it's happening right now. When you look at the numbers of people moving downtown, the numbers of projects that are ongoing right now, and the number of dollars that are invested, we feel really good about the growth and trajectory of where downtown will be over the next 5 to 10 years.
Well, that's terrific. Gregg, so talk to us a little about if somebody is wanting to invest with you, what's the process? Like, is there a waiting list? How does it work?
One of the benefits of being so focused on just the Jacksonville market is that we have made investments over the past decade plus that have allowed us to not have inventory restrictions or waiting lists right now, right? When we stockpile land, as we have that land available to build out. And so we have been preparing for a time like this when inventory is not there for most markets or most investors, even in the Jacksonville market, right? It's tough. Inventory is definitely scarce, but for us, it's different. So there's no inventory restrictions. There's no waiting list for any JWB client. And if somebody was interested, we take we take a slow approach to bring clients on board. And we do it for a reason. It's because I think most people get into the rental property investing and they don't have the right expectations set. They might come into this and think it's more transactional when we view this more as a relationship. We want to understand what the goals are of our clients. We want to break that down into a number of rental properties that they need to acquire in order to accomplish those goals. We want to look at the resources they have and see if their goals line up with the resources they have and the plan. We want to have this plan put together. So this is a service we offer for anybody coming to JWB. And we do it before they're even a client, before we even look at inventory. So we go very slow. We feel like this brings on the clients that are the right fit and the right mentality for this type of asset, and that we can be the right fit for them to help them reach their goals.
Awesome. Gregg, so if folks want to try to make that first step, how would they go about doing that? Are they going to go to your website? They're going to call you? Is there internal wholesalers? Or how does that work?
Yeah, the easiest thing is just to go to our website, which is jwbmakeseaseasy.com, jwbmakeseaseasy.com. You can go there if you're curious, if you want to get started and jump on the phone with us. You can start to look at available inventory. It's free to see right there. So you can go there. You can always find us. Give us a call at 904-677-6777. we're very active on social media. So we have a Facebook group that happy to join. That's at jwbfacebookgroup.com. And we also do a live show that we host every Tuesday and Thursday called the Not Your Average Investor Show. And if you'd like to join that and join the live audience, you can find us at nyais.com.
Awesome. Gregg, any final comments you'd like to make to our listeners?
I just think this is such a special time to be investing in rental properties. If any of your listeners have been thinking about making the leap into rental property investing, maybe you've written this down as a 1-year goal or a 2-year goal. I think talking to a professional right now is something that would be highly valuable. With the Fed's actions right now, with what they're doing with stopping quantitative easing and stopping their actions of pumping money into the economy. And they've already described rising interest rates over this year, 2022. Your ability to lock in your debt right now at low interest rates is a big opportunity. It's also fleeting, right? There's a sense of urgency around this because interest rates today, right now, are very likely to be lower than what they will be a year from now. And so if you can kind of plan out how this affects your ability to create the wealth that you'd like, it's one of the biggest factors in doing that. So I would encourage anybody to talk with a professional right now. I really believe this is a special moment. And I see interest rates going up, which overall decreases the return on investment for investors who make that same decision 1 year from now, 2 years from now.
Understood. Gregg, that's terrific information about your firm and about the Jax market. We love having folks from Jax and investors talk from around the state of what's going on in their markets. It's been very informative. We appreciate your time, sir.
Thanks so much, Eric.
And that was Gregg Cohen from JWB Real Estate Capital in Jacksonville, Florida. For other great guests like Gregg, please go to www.investfloridashow.com for other great topics on investing in real estate around the state of Florida.
You've just listened to the Invest Florida podcast with Eric Odom and Steven Silverman. Join us every week for actionable real estate investment ideas, and of course, visit our website at www.investfloridashow.com for more shows and tips on how to earn a cash flow in the real estate market in Florida. While hosts and producers of the Invest Florida show have no reason to doubt the validity of comments of our guests, we do not warranty their accuracy. Please check with your legal, financial, and tax advisors before entering into any investment. Returns will vary from person to person and deal to deal based on unique circumstances. All information expressed in this show is for educational purposes only. Opinions of the guests are not necessarily shared by the hosts and producers of the Invest Florida show.